All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode. I don't even remember. I think we're on episode 7 at this point. But yeah. So basically, last episode, our biggest show was. I don't want to be rude or anything, but a bit of a disappointment in terms of the rating and stuff. I think I tried to do like entrances to hype up the major show, but it is what it is. And then I've noticed some audio inconsistencies when I press play or something. I think it's out of habit. I like to grab the mic because I feel like I'm talking in it. And versus when I do Corky's Corner, the hockey podcast with my dad, it doesn't. I don't have a reminder that I can hear myself, so I grab the mic to make sure I'm talking in it, and then I speak over the speaker. So I'll work to stop that and nip it in the bud as soon as possible. But that's what the audio technicalities seem to come in. So I apologize for that. But basically, we're at an interesting point. So this match was a bit of a success. If I go to it should be in our top 5 matches of all time. You'd want it to be number one, but it is what it is. And the show itself was in the top half, right on the top half. This is a show that while we built up to it pretty well, I think we nailed the build. It didn't capture any magic. The Canadian Classic I think was still by far our best show, but that's when it's just like, oh, here's 8 popular wrestlers, let's have them wrestle each other for a show and are able to reuse our most over ones. So the Canadian Classic should be easy to nail, which is why it's one of our first events. It's our premier event at this point, basically. But if we go to matches like Luthez, Abdullah the Butcher, Killer Kowalski, so the Kozak brothers, Killer and Kowalski and Tolos killed it. Nick Kozak has kind of climbed up a little bit in terms of MVP. I think Abdullah the Butcher will be on there a little bit, and Luthez as well. But we're going to lose Luthez. And we don't have a lot of baby faces, so I think the goal will be to sign baby faces. But I've noticed in the territory days, I think it's just with the database right now, it's a how do I say this nicely? Like, here's all the people I have to hire, but there's not a lot of baby faces because at this point in time, you're just not going to remember a lot of wrestlers. Some of these guys are going to be lost to history. And the top baby face, what's the most remembered stuff because of what the WWF became, which is WWE, which is the most popular promotion of all time. Who was their top guy during this time? Bruno Sammartino until I think another year at this point, but then they quickly put the title on Pedro Morales for a while and then Bruno again. So it's the Pedro Morales Bruno Sammartino effect, I should say, and that there's not a lot of baby faces because when you try signing guys, they how do I say this nicely? Not nicely. They like a lot of the remembered guys from all this time are going to be basically heels and everything. I mean, we could be like, oh, Dory Funk, but the reason I wouldn't do Dory Funk or Dory Funk Jr. right now is basically they wouldn't realistically want to work for us. We're not part of the alliance. Terry Funk is a different story in that he's young, he's new to the business, newish, as new as you can be. It made some sense why I brought in Terry Funk, even though the Funks would be useful. There's not a lot of people who can be wrestlers. However, you know, oh crap. So there are some clones here with like Gerald Briscoe and everything, unfortunately. But I mean, all in all, this is a pretty good database. It's just there's not a lot of baby faces because I think the thing was there are a lot of guys who are basically heels, so they could feud with the top baby face. So we need to find baby faces. We need to set any guys we debut as you know, why am I blanking so much? God damn it. But and just set them as baby faces, and that's just what we need to do. So yeah. Do I take advantage of Gerald Briscoe? He would be a good road agent. What's his status as a road agent? Do I cheat? Do I be cheap when we're broke? Booking skill 47. Ooh. Yeah, that's a tough one. We'll come back to that, but basically the goal here is going to be to find some people who can work babyface. Mad Dog, he's unhappy, so we'll see if we can get him to walk out. And handshake per show. Exclusive handshake. All right, well, there we go. But anyway, yeah. So this episode we're gonna do 2 weeks. We'll see if some new baby faces to come in and feud with some of the other heels in the company can happen, but I'll leave that as some surprise debuts for you guys. And if you guys want to be a part of this and see the future of how this is all going to work, and like be part of the signing process and part of bringing in wrestlers, let me know. But for right now, I'll just pause it, and then anyone we bring in will be a surprise, which I think right now I prefer. Alrighty, so here is our first episode of CFW Live after crowning our first ever World Heavyweight Champion. And we have, just a fine non televised match, rookie showcase as usual. Jimmy Snuka having a really good rating, Roddy Piper, same as well. Couldn't ask for much more. Those guys are going to grow by working on the pre show. And next up, a 40. New face has arrived here in CFW, and that is Woody Farmer. He comes in, he beats Harold Sicardi by submission with the bear hug. He's a cocky brute, so I kind of wish I edited his gimmick, but the gimmick doesn't matter too much. It's very good, so that's all good there. Solid performance, seems to be a very good worker for his popularity. We can expect good things from Woody Farmer here in CFW. And next up, Rocky Johnson defeated Mike York with the Boston Crab. So another solid match. We're kind of saving the angles towards the end of the show to address, both Luthez and Buddy Rogers, which should be our next match. Yep, and here we go. 37, so Buddy Rogers, he's older, and we didn't put him in the ring with the best guy in the world, but he blatantly cheated. He made Joe Brunetti tap out, so once again makes him tap out. And I was all excited. Here comes a debuting Tony Bourne, a very popular person here in the British Columbia wrestling scene, has arrived in CFW the minute there is a world title to contend for. And he basically comes out and he says, hey, Buddy Rogers, you call yourself a world champion? Let's see really how tough you are. Sure, you're winning by submission, but you haven't beaten me. So we'll see where that goes. Tony Bourne making his first appearance in CFW, notable figure in the British Columbia professional wrestling scene, and already right away going for the world title. And next up, I forgot to hit for them to follow a script, but nonetheless, a 50 angle, very solid. Luthez comes out. He addresses his loss. He says, hats off to Buddy Rogers. He did everything in the book he could to try and beat me. In a way, I respect that, even though I don't agree with how he beat me. But nonetheless, okay, we're still rolling. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. But nonetheless, he did do it. I gotta respect that, and the fact that he felt he had to do that much to beat me shows he has respect and he had kind words for me. But now it's on to the next step in my career. Now, this will be the last month of my career, and the week 1 of April, I will wrestle my last match in professional wrestling. I've had a great career. A lot of people are calling me the greatest of all time. And the question is, who should it be? But out comes Killer Kowalski. And Killer Kowalski says, before you talk about your last match, I don't even want you to make it to your last match. So next week, it'll be you and me. You and me, Luthez, and I will destroy you. I will kill your career before it can end on your terms. We've had a lot of battles in the past, and you know what? It's going to be the end of my career. It's going to be the end of your career. And Luther says, you know what? Bring it on. I'm in my retirement tour. If you think you're man enough to retire me, I will be fully healed by then. You We'll have to give everything you got because you will not break me. I will beat you one last time. So there we go. Next week, another huge match in our career, and that is Luthez versus Killer Kowalski. And there we go. And I think the 37 may hurt us, but we still get a 42. So unfortunately, our shows are getting worse. I think a lot of it is Buddy Rogers in the main event, unfortunately. But Killer Kowalski and Luthez should kill it for next week's episode, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'll see you guys for next episode of CFW Live, which is part of this episode of the YouTube series, but when I tape it. So hang tight for about 2 seconds for you, but it will be a significant amount of time for me. All right, welcome back, everyone. Sorry about the couple seconds of silence there. I didn't realize we were recording right after I hit record, like an idiot. So here we have another solid match: Dusty Rhodes, Roddy Piper. Dusty Rhodes, really good. These guys are really good workers. Our three prospects of Roddy Piper, Dusty Rhodes, and Jimmy Snuka all doing well here. Well, and to go full meta here, if you know what they did in real life, yeah, makes sense. So definitely realistic there. We have Roddy Piper defeats Dusty Rhodes, and let's start the show here. And next up, yeah, so not a great match. The road agent, unfortunately, we got so many road agents. I got to kind of pick each one, and I messed that up this time. But yeah, I gave them both microphone. But basically, Abdullah came out and he's all like, hey, all this talk about the world title. I'm the Canadian heavyweight champion. People should be worried about me. I won a title first. I won a title first in this company before that title was created. Thor Ogden comes out and goes, no, you didn't. I beat you for that title. You're not going to erase my reign. We need to settle this. And then they start brawling because their feud's heated. So yeah, things aren't over between Abdullah the Butcher and Thor Hagen. And yeah, we're not doing okay. And next up, we have in a superb match, a solid opening match here. Finally, Rocky Johnson defeats Pat Patterson. A lot of submission finishers, which is a little bit unrealistic for the time of protecting wrestlers, but um, yeah, Rocky Johnson gets the win. It's been on a bit of a winning streak, and then Gorgeous George Jr. runs in, attacks Roddy Piper, kind of just has a cheap shot. Rocky Johnson gets up, and even though it's more beating him down to the mat, this was more of a sending a message. I would say the way I imagined it is he didn't beat him down to the match. He ran out, gave him a forearm, and ran off like the coward Gorgeous George is tend to be. His father was the same way, and so. Yeah, so those two seem to have some tension mounting. Why Gorgeous George Jr. did it, we don't know. Next up, we have in making his debut, Tony Bourne. Tony Bourne comes in with a cannonball, defeats Mike York, and definitely an impressive debut for Tony Bourne here in the Canadian Federation of Wrestling, trying to show that he does deserve the title shot because he's like, Babe Ruth pointing at the outfield there, which wasn't that long ago when Babe Ruth did it. So. And next up, Buddy Rogers in an interview basically says nope. Tony Bourne comes in, he tries to demand a title shot. Title shots are earned. Tony Bourne will never get a title shot against me. So Buddy Rogers kind of laying down the law. He's the champion. He can dictate some of the matches he takes on, and Tony Bourne will not be one of them. Next up, we have in a main event 55. Nick Kozak joined us on commentary, and another impressive performance between Luthez and Nick Kozak. Luthez came in and made Killer Kowalski tap out with the STF, and I wish I could edit the finishes. I don't think it matters as much as in real life with submissions and that. But yeah, so Luthez puts up a valiant effort in a 15-minute match with Killer Kowalski, and Nick Kozak looked impressive. Nick Kozak's like, look, right now, I don't think, when asked about why he's on commentary, he goes, I don't think I'm on the level of guys like Luthez, and clearly Killer Kowalski, he's had my number and I'm here to kind of watch, learn from the best at ringside here. And yeah, so you watch, Nick Kozak very impressed with the work of Luthez here, and even Killer Kowalski. As much as he dislikes Killer Kowalski, as he talks about on commentary, he does respect what Killer Kowalski is capable of. And of course, Luthez is the greatest of all time in a lot of people's eyes, and except for Buddy Rogers considers himself the greatest of all time. But definitely some scouting done by Nick Kozak, trying to learn from the best, trying to get on the level of those wrestlers. So there we go. 51, we're back. I knew we were going to hit it out of the park with that show. It's with Luthez's last match being in a few weeks. It just made sense to do Killer Kowalski and Luthez while we can. Obviously, they had a match in the Canadian Classic, but give Luthez a match against one of his classic rivals, that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's it for this show, ladies and gentlemen. This episode, I'll pause and we'll kind of do a breakdown of things like our finances. So just hang on 1 second. For you guys, it will be 1 second. For me, it'll be some. Okay, and we're back. So, as you can see, we've debuted two new faces. All just so it's out there, we do have another guy signed. You can probably see it here. It's Gene Kanitsky. We needed to bring in some faces, and we got it, so the dynamics a little bit more balanced. I think it might be a little bit too many faces, but hopefully we're getting close to the point where we can turn guys heel. I know or in face, go back and forth, but normally it's about a year, so I'm going to try to wait a year before we turn people heel and, metagaming and everything. But yeah, we killed it with the show. We needed a winner show and creative in what we know we're capable of here with our promotion. Obviously, any show we put on with some of these names is going to over deliver, as you can look at our money situation. I'm not super concerned with it just yet until we get notifications in the game. Obviously, I want to turn it around. I think as our attendance goes up and we make money off ticket sales and all that, it will be. But we have, I'm just going with pictures that are slightly related. So the Big Bang, first ever show, WCW did that one. Luthez versus Buddy Rogers 4. I typed versus. So that's the picture for this one. Don't worry about them too much. It would be in real life, it would be a flyer, but um, and then the Canadian Classic, Canadian Stampede, I went with that one just because it's very similar, and maybe we'll have a Canadian Classic in Alberta someday. But yeah, if we go to size, we are growing. So, ooh, that's very good. We've jumped up to a 28. So if you look, this month we were 25, 25. So then we grew from 25 to 26 with our event. And then we went to 27, now we're 28. So that's really good. If we can get to small, that's very good. It's probably going to help with a lot of money. We can get some more wrestlers to kind of commit, maybe get some more exclusive handshake deals. But yeah, so in terms of popularity, we're heading in the right direction. We've grown in Alberta. Let me just see here. Track progress, Canada, Alberta. So we were 10, we've bumped up to 11. We're still 4 in Manitoba, in Saskatchewan, and 1 in Manitoba, but that's honestly fine. We got to get this province and this province done before we worry about that. But British Columbia is coming a long way, and that'll help with attendance. Attendance, we upgraded our merch stand to what's affordable right now. Once we get to small, maybe I'll do something else, but we're definitely growing. So things in terms of popularity starting to move up. Creatively, we had a big hit because if we go to show history, this was a successful show, but not as successful as it should have been for being our biggest event in history. Well, the Canadian Classic probably was still a bigger event, but in general, we had a miss there for a TV hit, mediocre, hit there, hit there. But then I was not doing a good job because I was hoping to be in the 50s for our event. So maybe I have too many high standards, but the only real miss we've had so far is, so yeah, that 51, like that's tied for our greatest show of all time. So we killed it with this one. We're still bleeding money, but hopefully we can get our attendance up there as our momentum builds up, our prestige builds up. hopefully, if we can get that going in the right direction, this is going to head into the right direction. But that's it for this one, everyone. And tune in next week for the final build to Luthez's retirement tour, as well as the retirement tour of Luthez. So I'll see you guys then. And yeah, that's it for this one. If you guys like the content I'm producing on the channel, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and click the bell to be notified when I upload because this series is pretty close to daily. I once I start work again tomorrow, it might not be daily as much there, but on my days off, I can kind of crank these out because it only takes me about an hour and a half of filming. So, and some downtime before bed is when I do it. And yeah, so see you guys, well, hopefully tomorrow, but sometime soon for the build.